This all-time 70s classic has been called the rock and roll equivalent of Gone with the Wind meets Huckleberry Finn. The classic rock band that wrote this, they did it as a love letter to the South. They thought the song was okay, but they didn't think it was a hit, so it was relegated to a B-side. Up next, the principal members of this Rock and Roll Hall of Fame group tell the story of this underdog number one, next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. If you want to go back in time and experience your richest memories through music, this is your channel. I'm telling you the story straight from the legends. We also have a Patreon that you need to check out. Cool stuff you won't find anywhere else. Click on the link below to check that out. We have our Vintage Years collection as well at professorofrock.com. So it's time for another edition of our series Revelations. This is where artists and bands take us for a deep dive into their greatest songs and greatest albums. Today, we get the scoop on the all-time classic rock standard, Blackwater. Straight from the principal members of the Doobie Brothers, Tom Johnston and Pat Simmons. The Doobie Brothers were just coming off their massive hit album, The Captain and Me, which contained the classic hits China Grove and Long Train Runnin'. Both rock standards, if there ever were two, pushed the sales of The Captain and Me past double platinum. So in late 1973, the Doobies started putting the tracks together for what would become their next album. 1974 is what were once vices are now habits. Got it right over there. My dad had a copy, gave it to me. When Pat Simmons came up with the basic guitar lick for what would become Blackwater, he was at Warner Brothers recording studio during the sessions for the previous album, The Captain and Me. He was just sitting there playing the parts between takes for a completely different song. And it was at that time that producer Teddy Templeman got on the talkback and he said, "What is that?" Pat just told him, "It's a little riff that I came up with that I've been tweaking with." And Ted Templeman said, "I love that. You really should write a song using that riff." Now later, Pat Simmons finished it while he was in New Orleans as a tribute to the South. I'll let him tell you the rest. Even though Templeman thought it was a great song and they really spent a great amount of time recording it with painstaking detail, they never thought it was a potential single. So they ended up putting it on the B-side for the lead single from that album, the heart-wrenching top 40 hit Another Park, Another Sunday, which was written by lead singer Tom Johnston. Just a great song. Another Park, Another Sunday was actually moving up the charts steadily. And then according to the band, it got yanked off the radio for the line, "And the radio just seems to bring me down." That really stopped it dead in its tracks. Years later, it was actually voted as one of the 5 greatest Doobies songs, despite only hitting number 32. So radio definitely stopped its momentum. After the second single off the new album, Eyes of Silver, missed the top 40, the Doobies decided to do a re-release. It was their inaugural single, Nobody. And they re-released that, and it was first released in 71. It was moving up the Hot 100. It was in the 60s, when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the B-side, Blackwater, started to erupt. Radio stations discovered it as the B-side to Another Park, Another Sunday, started playing it. I guess it all started in Virginia, as the DJ said that it was really the only song that was being requested at that moment. Soon a lot of other stations followed suit, and the request lines lit up like Christmas trees. And not long after, the Doobies officially released it as a single. It went on to sell 1 million copies, and it became the Doobies' first #1 single, almost a year after it was the B-side to the lead single, Another Park, Another Sunday. So up next, the story of both Blackwater and Another Park, Another Sunday, one of the greatest double-sided hits of the 70s, really, with both Tom Johnston and Pat Simmons of the Doobie Brothers. Now, as we go into this interview, I do want to thank our sponsor, Zenny Eyewear, that helps to make this possible. Their slogan is eyewear for everyone, and it's totally true. Zenny is the only company that you can get a quality pair of glasses designed to your liking, Great features like blue blocks and anti-fog, anti-glare for less than a vinyl record. If you're in the market for a pair of sunglasses or glasses, go to Zenni.com, pick out your frames today. Here are Tom and Pat with the story.
Roll that water, keep on rolling. Mississippi moon.
If Gone with the Wind and the writings of Mark Twain are the great Southern novels, that is the rock equivalent of Huck Finn. I spent a lot of time in the South myself, and that song takes me there. And it's interesting because it was played by a DJ, because it was the B-side, and you guys never thought it was going to be a hit. And it went to #1, and it's just such an incredible song. How did that come together?
We had been touring in the South and ended up in New Orleans for kind of an extended period of time, playing clubs in the vicinity. I remember going uptown, taking the streetcar, St. Charles goes up into the Garden District. I had the riff, the doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo, and I'd been trying to write a song, and nothing was really coming. And I was on the streetcar, and it started to rain. I started scribbling stuff down on some piece of paper I had, and if it rains, I don't care. It'll make no difference to me. I'll take that streetcar that's going uptown. That was like one of the first things that I remember writing down about the song.
That's what you were literally doing.
And exactly.
Just take that streetcar, let's go. We love town.
My favorite town, in the country, just about. And I decided I'm going to write this song about New Orleans. Blackwater being the Mississippi. And then I took lyrics directly out of, from Mark Twain, I'll build me a raft.
Ready for floating.
Ready for floating. Old Mississippi, it's calling my name. And, so basically I wrote the song about, my New Orleans experience. But it speaks to a broader love of the South in general,
Well, it's interesting because at that time when it went to #1, records were really formulaic that year. And it seemed like when you guys had that a cappella part at the end where everybody's singing together, Teddy Templeman had been in Harper's Bazaar and had cut to Feelin' Groovy.
Ted had a lot to do with a lot of our vocal arrangements. In fact, he even sang on some of our records with us. Yeah. He sang a lot on those Van Halen records, too. I don't know if anybody knows that, but Ted sang a lot, It's Ted singing a lot of that with the band, because he had ideas about vocal arrangements. And the same thing on Blackwater, when I had the concept of wanting to do a cool vocal arrangement, and I had a lot of it started. And then we just kind of went out in the studio and started playing around with it. And Ted said, hey, how about doing this? And I think Keith Knutson came up with, I want a honky-tonk, honky-tonk, honk. And he's singing that, Keith's singing that. And then Tyron said, I'm going to do it an octave lower. And so he's, I'm on a honky-tonk. And he's singing. And really, a lot of the guys came up with some of their own parts. But then what I wanted to do, I said, when we do this, I want to have a Dixieland band. I want to have, clarinet and 4-string banjo and tuba and everything play behind this. And he goes, okay. And then we left town and I came back and he says, I had this other idea. I tried. And I go, well, you didn't want to do the Dixieland band? He goes, well, tell me what you think about this. I tried this, and he played the way it breaks down and everything. It was Ted's idea. And I said, perfect. Hey, we don't need a Dixieland band. That
on the violin back and forth and the guitar. Just love it. There's a story, a friend of mine was telling me that his dad was walking down the hall of the school in this big high school in California, and he was singing the song to himself. And all of a sudden, within like 20 seconds, 1,000 kids across the halls, like boom, 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 started all singing at the same time. It was like before this YouTube thing.
I was going to say, where's the YouTube?
Yeah, it was before YouTube, but he said it was incredible because within 30 seconds, he looked down at everybody in the hall, Funky Dixieland, you know, and then even people were singing the Father Hunt, you know, and all that. And he said it's just
that was called a round. That's what they called those things. Like that whole section was called a round.
When he's telling me that story, man, the hairs on my arms were just, I was like, wow, that's cool.
Mama, hey, pretty mama, dance with the daddy. Come on, you sing along. Outside, the wind is blowing.
Everything about that song is kind of really cool. I mean, it's a great song. It's got an interesting arrangement. Everybody got a chance to play a little something. The drums on the tune, I think, are pretty amazing. I think Mike Hossack played a great, really. It's funky, but not over the top, you know, hard edge or anything. It's a little bit Latin. It's a little bit funky. And yeah, he really and we still are kind of play that. We actually haven't been playing it, but we worked it up to play again. And it's just one of those great feeling tracks to play live, you know.
That was the heartbreak story. I had just broken up with a girlfriend that I was really head over heels about, and it was a rocky relationship all the way through. So it was, which always gives you a lot of fodder for lyrics and feelings in a song, and so you can really pour it out with your guitar when you're sitting there writing about something like that. You're not making it up. You're talking from personal experience, so that helps. And that's where that came from. And the chords kind of expressed what I was feeling at the time, it seemed like to me. And that was one of those songs, once again, that just wrote itself. This whole thing about... It's a pretty song, and I wasn't known for writing pretty songs, and I still don't write a lot of pretty songs, but
Tom, that is exactly what's missing from modern music right there, what you just did. You wrote a song, and that it resonated with so many people, and even just the rawness of it, it's so close to the heart and kind of cut to the bone, that kind of feeling, and even you singing it right there. What I love about the old music is the imperfections. Is sometimes when there's a little bit of a crack there because there's emotion, there's real feeling there. And man, that was awesome. That was awesome. Thank you for singing that. That was cool. That was a real treat, man. I think that's why that song has always been one of my favorites because it's like, it's a heartbreaker, man.
Yeah, it was basically at that time, it was a bitch going through it. But I mean, that's where you get your best stuff, is what happens to you in real life. I think any songwriters, I mean, there's so many great people out there writing songs. I think of John Hyatt, for instance, and all the songs that he writes. You always get the feeling like he's been through everything he wrote about. I think when you're writing from a personal point of view, rather than trying to be cool or trying to be hip or whatever, you're going to get your best stuff, always. And I'm not going to make any comments about where we're at today and all that, but other than being formulaic, it's coming from the heart, or it's coming from personal experience. And or something you did when you were a kid, or whatever it is. Doesn't really matter. Watching what's going on in the world now. Any number of things.
Make sure to leave us a comment about the Doobie Brothers. What are your memories of these songs? What are your thoughts on them as all-time classics? What iteration of the Doobie Brothers was your favorite? Was it with Tom Johnston or Michael McDonald? I love both for different reasons. Tell us below. If you dig our content, make sure to subscribe so you never miss out on our videos. Check us out on Patreon. Check out our merch. It's all about keeping the music alive, my friends. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth.